How we doing, everyone? Mark Szymanski back again with another video here. We're going to have a chat today. And to set it up, obviously you can see the title of the video. It's kind of like auditing my business mindset and where I'm at with everything. I don't want to make this video super long, but I'm kind of a long-winded person and I need to kind of flesh out these ideas. And more than anything, I want to just kind of put this video out there into the ethos because I want to be able to come back to it and consistently refer to it, kind of where I am today, as filming this June 17th, 2022, kind of document this because I hope to use, the near and distant future. I hope to use this as like a benchmark for moving forward, like a milestone of what we're going to be doing in order to just make more progress in this business empire that we're trying to build here. And ultimately, as we walk through the notes that I have here and everything and just what's kind of going on in my head, I think that there's going to be a decent amount of pivoting going on. So I am just interested to see how it goes, and I need to just kind of talk about it here. And hopefully, again, with everything that I do, hopefully you get something out of this. Hopefully you can, if you're in a similar position, you can kind of take this and think about, apply it to your situation and use this, this thought process to better your personal situation. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So obviously I feel like I need to do this auditing of my business mindset, and the inspiration of it came from a meeting yesterday that I had with two fellow entrepreneurs in the Pittsburgh area. They really opened my mind and gave me like a whole new perspective on kind of what I'm doing and, maybe a better path forward, some ways to kind of pivot in the things that I'm doing. So we're going to talk about all that. And if we just start going through here, the first thing I think is very important to do is give yourself credit to some degree where credit is due, because if you're doing like an audit, obviously there's things that you need to improve on. But firstly, we should talk about the things that I feel that I'm at least doing to some degree well, and having some success with. So the first thing I would say is like the ideas that I have and the ideas that I've had in the past, and all of this kind of runs together. So the ideas, the foundation, the work ethic, and the organization, like all of that. I feel that all of the ideas that I've had with this MJS Industries empire that I've started to build here have been great. They're all practical. They're all some of the industries themselves might be like saturated, like clothing, for instance, but they're things that I'm passionate about, and I think they're things that are not so ridiculous that they could actually be very successful, and they have a ton of potential. The timing is something that we'll talk about. We'll get to the needs improvement thing. I think that I'm doing a lot too many things at one time right now, but we're not there yet. So the foundation of it, the organization, I know for a fact that if somebody came to me, and actually it's funny because somebody did message me yesterday on Instagram right around the meeting time and was like, hey, I know you quit your 9-to-5 job. I know you have businesses now. Like, how did you set all that up? Like, just asking me stuff about that. I love getting those questions. If you have those questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me because I love doing that. I genuinely, one of my favorite parts about getting to this point has been the research and the learning and the actual implementation of how to set up a business. Like if you go to my website right now, you'll find like a course that's sort of like half done, but it's like a right way to set up a business. So it's all of the steps and everything that I had there. It's literally those two things, building a foundation and the organization and the structure of how to do all those different things of like that you would need to do. Now, I've found, actually, it's kind of funny, I could probably turn that into some sort of product or something like that, because there are services out there I know right now that have been marketed to me via ads or whatever that do that same type of thing. It's like you need to get an LLC, you need to get a bank account, you need to do this, you need to do that, an EIN number, and I have all that knowledge. So it's like, do I capitalize on that or do I not? Do I give that information away for free? Do I not? Do I not even focus on that? That's kind of where I'm at. My biggest problem is that I have so many ideas and so many thoughts and so many things and so much knowledge like built up over time, and I need to just get more concise. And we'll talk about that because those are the big things that need to kind of be improved and everything like that. As far as work ethic goes, I'm a hard worker. Like if I am passionate about the things that I'm doing, I want everything to succeed. So I have no doubts about it. That's just, the direction that we're headed is up. It's just right now we're headed at a very slow pace, and I'd like to try to continue to build momentum and move faster. The last thing that I want to talk about here before we move into the needs improvement, just to set the scene a little bit more, is what I have built to this point is like MJS Industries. So MJS Industries is the parent company, and then it has brands underneath. You can go to mjs.industries if you want, link in the description. But I just built this little visualization here. It does a great job of it. And this is like the best part of what I've ever done, and like the biggest problem currently of what I've ever done is basically this chart right here. So I, Mark Szymanski, own a company called MJS Industries LLC, and then MJS Industries LLC owns each one of these other like fully blown LLCs. So when I say that I know how to like start a business, I would say that it's pretty well defined. I've gone through that process 6 times, okay? And I'm not saying that like I could start a business for you and it's going to be incredibly powerful. That's not what I said. I said like the organization, all of those things up front, like I just know how to do that well. I've done it 6 times. I will say that the industries are not like crazy. It's not like I know how to set up like a dentist's office or something that like that. Like there's obviously other steps for certain things, but anything digital, like setting up a digital business or like a freelance type business, I'm pretty good at that. I'm not saying I'm going to do that as like a service, but the point is that from that knowledge that I've built and doing it in this case, it's helped me learn a lot. And now I really need to take the next step at like, okay, you have a business, I have several. How do I get them to be extremely like profitable and generate like a lot more revenue so they can be more sustaining? And unfortunately, this is where we get to the point where this is like really cool, but also kind of like my biggest problem in my life right now. And it's that I have all of these things and all of these great ideas, but I don't have the execution plan in order well enough, because I've actually always said this, and I could maybe zoom out here so you could see the full thing. I've always said this. It's like building a city. It's like building a city by yourself. Like if MJS is the city, then like each one of these is like its own little building. And like, so like one day I'm like working on some MJS stuff and like, I'm building a little bit of a building. And then the next day I'm working over here and I'm, doing something here. And like it's very hard to build a whole city efficiently by yourself, one, but just in general, like without the time or the resources, it's not a good idea. And I've been trying to do that to varying lengths for the last like 3 years, and I have gotten success. But it just hasn't. I just really think that we could with a shift in our mindset to some degree, we could definitely be a lot better and move a lot quicker and scale a lot faster if we implement some of the things from that meeting and just from some other stuff. So this is the base case. Obviously, this is where we're at right now. We have a great foundation, great organization, good work ethic, and good ideas, but we're spread too thin in a sense. So let's talk about the things that we need to do moving forward here to kind of, places that I need to improve and kind of the plan. So what do we need to improve? The first thing, obviously, kind of in business, and I've never put this at like the forefront. I put like passion, fulfillment, happiness at the forefront, with like the secondary emphasis being like money, because I figured that would always kind of come. But that's sort of true, but it's not true to the sense of like, if you want to do so many things, like you need to do it in a more like smart way, right? Like the expenses that we have, the overhead and everything of these businesses honestly is quite low right now, but the income, is not much higher, right? So that is a huge thing that we need to improve. We need to focus and when we get to the plan here, we'll talk about like some of the ideas that I have and that I've gained to make more money. Bottom line, right? Just generate more income, because that's what we need to do in order to scale and grow. Pricing, I need to improve on pricing, just like depending on how we go here with the plan and everything. Need to be confident in the services that we provide, whatever it is, services, product, and then price them according to the value that they give the client or the customer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like from now on, I am going to work with people that value the service or the product at the level that I deem it. And if not, then that's fine. We'll recommend to somebody else that, I don't know, is in their price range or something like that. Like we can't do that anymore. Like We have to value our time more than pretty much anything else. And the customer should do that as well. And if that's not in sync, then that's fine. If it makes sense, then it makes sense and we'll work together. But if not, then whatever. Probably the biggest paradigm shift that I'm going to have to go through here in my next phase of being a business person is focusing more and like niching down. So what I mean is, and the idea that was presented to me for specifically Find It Tech and the web development that I do, is I'm going to need to focus in on that. Like focus in on it, meaning like that's like the main thing that I do, like gaining new clients, generating income, hiring people, and building processes and everything for that. And with all of that, I very much should niche to one like industry or like sub industry or something of building websites for. So for instance, I just built a beautiful and functional website for Equilibrium Wealth Advisors. They're wealth advising firm here in Pittsburgh, and it was kind of like a rebuild. Like they had something, and I just made it a lot better and a lot more streamlined and everything. And this is like one possibility, for instance, right? So like I could target independent wealth advising firms and build them websites that are in line with this. Not the same website, obviously, but could potentially happen, right? Or it could be, any other industry. It could be, like home contractors, or it could be accountants, or it could be, whatever, right? I understand that, and I have a slight issue with it because I don't want to necessarily be doing just like the same thing every time. But at the same time, I mean, that is a definite path to really good and really solid, growth. Because if you could get like 100 independent wealth advising firms that you're building that same type of thing for, and it's not like templated, but like the concepts are the same, you definitely could become an authority in like financial wealth advising website development. So I totally understand that. I do have some thoughts about that. Maybe we'll get into that sort of like in the later half of this plan here. But focusing and niching, it needs to happen. Like I need to focus more on where we're generating income, and increasing that, and then niching down to something, and then over time I will be able to step back from that one specific thing as I scale and everything like that. So like we do that, we plan a little bit more concisely, and have like actual goals and better business pitch, for instance. So like all of that. And then with all of that, as we build the standard processes and things, we'd have to hire people and we'd have to delegate. I am all on board for that because I want to do less of that work if it's going to be not tedious, but if it's going to be repetitive. That's not what I want to do. I want to be the person that is literally, like managing in a sense, or like, making sure everything is running smoothly in that like more of a, CEO type of position or whatever. So that's what I need to do. I need to improve on all those areas because that, I think, is like the second, my next phase of it. Once you have those soft skills and you're building up all those things that I'm doing well, like the foundation, organization, the work ethic, then you need to start realizing, okay, well, it's time to actually build a better business and like improve on that. And that's like our next step of the evolution. So how the hell am I going to do this? Well, truthfully, I don't actually know. I mean, I have a semblance of a plan here, but I am not completely sold on everything that is in my head right now that I got from the meeting, that I've heard from other, colleagues and people. I need to figure out my own plan because that's the only way that I will be like 100% like in on it. That's, so these are just ideas, right? It's still fluid. I'm going to add some comments in here because I have some comments, and again, we're documenting. So focus on generating income via Find It Tech. I think that needs to happen. It's the best business for generating income. It's the easiest. It's the quickest. Okay. Of all those other things that we have, it's those are slow burning things. Like making content, building up the personal brand, building up Fuel by Progress, AM and the PM or whatever. Like all of those things, like you cannot just make a podcast and start making money. I mean, maybe some people can, but the way that you do make that is, this was described to me yesterday, it's like a tunnel. So my biggest problem, this goes back to the other stuff. My biggest problem with where I'm at right now, and the reason that I need to come back and focus on something, is because I figured at the beginning of this, I was going to build an empire and I was going to build that little city type thing, like one brand at a time, right? But when I came to this and I built this, still good idea, still potential, but it's impossible for me to do all those things at once. So the way that the tunnel would look is that, for instance, I focus heavily on find a tech. I'm talking like probably 90%. It should be probably 100, but I don't know if I can fully do that. So like, especially because like a lot of the stuff is wrapped up in my personal brand too, a lot of like separate things. So let's just say 90. Okay, let's say 90% to 100%. Focused on find a tech and building and generating income through that, gaining new clients, scaling the business, everything like that. Once I get to a certain point where I have other people doing all the work and I have, or most of the work, and I am able to just kind of call the shots and buy a lot of my time back through all of that, then that's when you get towards the end of that tunnel and you can step away and you can do other things and you can spin off like other businesses because you have the resources to do so. I totally get that concept. I wish it was explained a little bit better when like people like in my years when I was like watching Gary Vee, like I literally built this type of system right here in this like empire holding company and everything, specifically built modeled off of like VaynerX and what Gary Vaynerchuk has done. But the thing that like the disconnect in my head was that he wasn't all of this at first. He was like one thing and then he spun up into the other things. So I mean that's kind of my bad. But it's not really a big deal. This is still going to stand unless something happens and one day I don't want to do some of these other things or whatever. But that does make sense to me. It needs to be one thing initially, and then you can spin off more things and you become more of a you can become more of a cultural commentator or whatever the hell else that you want to do. I'm still going to commentate on culture. I'm not going to stop with that because I enjoy that way too much. I just wish that there was an easier path, a more quick and concise path to becoming the person that I ultimately want to become, but I am not sure that that is possible. I am not sure that I can become I say Gary Vee just because it's an example, but like any of these people that have like a portfolio of brands and they are the person that they are like younger in a sense. Maybe there is, but I'm just going to continue to work, however I can and try to work a little more smarter in order to hopefully be there in, 5 years rather than in like 20 years. I don't know. So hopefully that made sense, but that's really where it is. Instead of me working like this and like building this little thing, I kind of need to push some of these things down and like work on like one that's going to make a lot of, generate a lot of revenue and help me get to that plateau and that point where I can be like, okay, let me kind of like devote some of my time and energy to some other things. So that's the whole point of this. Focus on generating income via Find a Tech. Niche website building to a certain financial or certain industry, potentially, financial advising. Again, talked about this, 100% agree with the niching idea. Don't know if I agree with the financial advising. I think that there could be better. That was just in the conversation yesterday specifically, but it could be something else. Obviously, it could be something else, but there might even be like better opportunities, and here's why. I was in the real estate industry, I reference this a lot, and there's a lot of people always like hitting up real estate agents to like services and companies that have built like these very templated but like this templated stuff. So I did a little bit of research, like a very little bit of research on like financial advisors in Pittsburgh, and I just looked at other people. If you're on this list, congratulations or whatever. I'm not gonna like crap on anybody necessarily, but if you're in here, like, if it, not necessarily these people, but like for instance, like I was looking at different websites. Like this looks like a a fine website, but there's other websites and there's other things that you can draw similarities between, and then like you can know off the bat basically if you have any keen idea that those websites are built by like one brand, and then they are. It's a product that the independent wealth advising firm buys. So that would be like kind of me in a sense if I niched down to like financial website advising stuff, for instance. And I don't know if I want to be in an industry that already has a lot of players in that field. Let me try to back up and explain what I'm saying here. in the real estate industry, there are hundreds of thousands of real estate agents, okay? Each one of those agents feels that they need a website. I would agree to that to an extent, right? But how much variation could there possibly be in real estate agent websites? Like, they are all doing the exact same thing, okay? I have a sort of a personal, not a vendetta, but like a personal bias against like industries like that because they are so saturated with people that are in it. Maybe I'm thinking about it all wrong, okay? Maybe, like real estate, there are a million financial advisors. Like, there's a ton of financial advisors that obviously they need websites to a certain degree. They need something, so then what is their solution? These companies that provide products like web platforms that are the exact same thing with just different logos and different information on them, maybe they have something, maybe they know something, maybe they have something going for them, but maybe that is a sign to not do that because they already have all of that sort of structure in place. And like, I don't know if I could come in there and be like, yeah, I mean, I could build your website. It's going to be a little bit more custom, and it's going to provide a lot more of the same things. Like, I'm not sure about the value proposition in that regard. I would probably need to do a lot more research specifically on the financial advising like industry. But if it's anything like real estate, which I do have a lot more experience with, I don't know if that's like really the right thing to do. I will say that just as we're talking about this, real estate is probably a different bear entirely because everybody would like want to have home search and stuff on their thing, and that's a whole different rabbit hole. We don't need to talk about that. But the point is that if you're thinking about like website development, there's a lot of stuff, okay? There's a lot of things that go into that, like actually building a website, that a lot of people don't know. And they don't necessarily need to know, but I had this conversation, this is part of the conversation yesterday. It's like, what do you share with your clients and what do you not share with your clients? There was a metaphor that was brought up in the meeting. It's like, when you're trying to pitch somebody on something like this, it's like, does it turn the lock? And I agree with that, but that's not how I personally think. I don't want, if I buy a product, I would rather, or get a service or whatever, I want to know like what I'm buying, like how it's functioning and all that sort of stuff. I guess there's people that don't want to know. They just want to know, is it going to work? And I understand that, but that's another thing that I'm navigating is like, how do we, as a company like Find It Tech, like in servicing clients, how are we going to navigate that? What are we going to niche down to, obviously, but in that industry, we have to have a killer knowledge, a killer knowledge base of that industry and understand it because we want to be like the authority in that space. So the question becomes, should we compete right now with like a Carson Wealth Partners, for instance? Let me just bring that up just so you can exactly show you what I'm talking about. All right, let me break this down here for you just so you can totally understand where I'm coming from and you can have an example, because this is definitely in other industries. We're just talking about financial advising right now, and I know there's a million of these in the real estate agency. And it goes in line with everything I'm talking about. Should we compete with something like this? All right, so one of these ones that I've figured out is Carson Group, okay? They're like, basically what it seems like, I don't know for certain, but it seems like they were an advising agency, like a wealth advisor, and then they decided, okay, well, hey, we're wealth advising. We're doing our stuff really well. We're running a wealth advising business really well. Let's take a step back and let's pull out of that game. Like, let's continue to have that, but let's pull all of our technology out, all of our standard operating procedures, all that. Let's put it into another company called Carson Group or whatever, and then we'll sell that. We'll basically sell our business operations and everything that we do to other wealth advising firms, like independent wealth advising firms. Let me give you an example. This is Carson Wealth. Like, this is like the one, I guess, right? Like the main Carson thing, okay? And there's no shade being thrown here. I don't even know any of these people or anything like that or whatever. I'm just on the internet, okay? So This is like the main one, okay? I want you to look at this with me, right? This is a website for the main one, right? They have 2 like things or whatever. I don't know. They probably have more locations, whatever. Okay? I'm going to click the next tab. Does this look similar to you? Right? Does this look similar to you? Yeah, I think they look exactly the same, okay? Very, very minute differences, right? And this is a firm in Pittsburgh specifically. So obviously this firm pays Carson Wealth for their package, their technology package, their whatever. Cool. I'm sure they're doing fine because I'm sure that thing is not cheap or whatever. The point that I'm making, okay, is that the way that I see this is that if I implement that strategy and I become like a niched website thing for financial advisors, I'm effectively directly competing with Carson Group. Not exactly because I don't have the full thing, but it would be like I am like everything that these guys offer, like all this stuff, like their coaching and whatever the hell else they have, all this. It's like basically I would be kind of providing like the technology and like whatever else is in here, some sort of this stuff. The point that I'm making is there might be other industries, not financial advising, like other industries, like concrete layer, like people that make concrete stuff, that there's no one like Carson Group in that industry. There's nobody providing like high quality websites for X industry. And maybe that is a better play because then I'm like the only person and I'm going to be very good at it. I don't know. Maybe. I just don't understand. Like, I'd have to look into like things like this and do market research in because I'm sure Carson Group isn't the only one because financial advisors, everybody and their mom is a financial advisor. So like, I'm sure that there's already other people capitalizing on this. Maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but it's just, I don't know. It's tough. The good thing about this field, it seems like, is that money just kind of gets thrown around. So maybe income generation. Maybe it's better to be playing around with that. I don't know, man. I'm just kind of talking. That's like my initial thoughts from everything that I've heard. But regardless of what industry we go to, let's just continue through this here because we're getting kind of long. Regardless, we have to do some sort of niching because we can't just like find random websites and do random things because it needs to be a little bit more consistent and a little bit more concise. And we will absolutely. The thing I love about niching is you absolutely will be your service will be better because you are doing a tighter, like you're servicing a tighter market and you're just going to know more about those types of things rather than doing this and this and this, the different industries. There's still going to be all good websites, but I mean, there's definitely more value to that if you specifically do, one industry. So there's that. The next kind of plan or idea is offering services that the client needs. So like the full package. I really, 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 really do not want to have to be in the website and post content for the clients. I don't want to do that at all. It's something that I've tried to completely stray away from. And specifically like on the most recent builds, I have made the back end of the website extremely simple to use. But a good thought was brought up to me was if I make the website and I make a simple backend for myself to use, and then the client just provides the content, that could be a service that's actually not very difficult for me to do, me or somebody, or me delegate that even to do, and you'd effectively make more money for your time there, and you wouldn't. The way it was like, don't give up your secrets, which I don't like that because I like to just like give people the keys to their shit. But at the same time though, like I understand that like you're offering a service. So you would get hypothetically paid more. Like it would just be more of a full experience. It's like I'm building this website for you. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to make sure it's hosted well, maintained well, and I'll put the content up for you. But that is just, again, it's like I can't make the content for you. Like I'm not at that stage yet, but that would be the next logical progression. That's not really where I want to be, but I think I could do that part. I could easily, manage the content and stuff like that, or definitely delegate it out. So that's an idea, and that's something that I'd like to definitely look into. And then on that same line is if I'm going to move anywhere towards delegation, I have to continue to create standard operating procedures for all the business tasks. And I actually really love doing that, and I have done that for a bunch of different things. So I just need to make sure that we do that. and we put all that information like into one place. Honestly, those things will probably be built on the website themselves, because yeah, that's probably the best, most streamlined way. But like just putting all that stuff together so I can do it. I can do something, refine the process, write it down, and hand it off. That's what I want to do. So I have no problem. That's honestly one of my favorite things, I think, on this list. So I'm excited to do that. I just need to bring it all together with that. And then obviously, like I was saying there, right after that, we'd hire and delegate staff to do what I don't want to do. I'm thinking of hiring for MJS Industries and have the person work on things as needed. So like video editing, graphic design, thumbnails, website admin tasks. Because if I hired somebody under the MJS Industries like brand in a sense, then I feel like, I don't even know if that's necessary, but like the point is that if I hire a video editor for whatever I'm doing, then I don't want to have to hire a video editor necessarily for the FBP podcast, the AM and the PM podcast, and the MJS, these videos that you're seeing here. I don't want to edit them, because that's not. There's better editors out there than me, and I just don't want to do that. That's not something that's like I'm extremely passionate about. It's just something that I have to do right now. So if I could, that's what I want them to be able to do, like multiple brand content like videos. And it's not crazy. They're not like super different or super weird or anything. It's just from a structural perspective, it's like you kind of work for MJS Industries and I can tell you to do whatever, it's like you work for this brand here, and like maybe sometimes you're doing videos here, videos here, videos here. Again, albeit it's not going to be like a lot for these other brands. It would just be like, if I have a podcast, just throw it together and do that. So that's what I would ultimately like to do. And then at some point, it would be nice as those scale. It's like, yeah, you just do MJS content or you just do Fuel by Progress content, but we're not there yet. So that's why I do really like the structure and the ideas and everything that I've implemented. It's just the timing and the path forward. That's what we need to refine here. So all of that, and then get back to consistent FBP episodes. Listen, I know that I said I'm trying to focus, but that is probably without a doubt the best thing that I've ever done, is those FBP episodes, because it's something that I enjoy doing. It's something that I feel that I'm quite good at. I'm a very active listener. I ask insightful questions. I love hearing about people's stories. And not only all that, it actually, the people that I've had on, I think it's definitely boosted their brands to a certain extent. It's like people loved that shit too. And if I continue to go, like every guest that I had in like the I don't even know how many it was, like 80 or whatever, they were all like in a very kind of certain bubble. Like they were all pretty close to me. They were like basically one degree of separation away most of the time. And people really enjoyed that. If I kept going and I kept stepping up the proverbial like influencer ladder or whoever else, like, like if I kept getting better and better guests, not better, but, bigger and bigger guests, then I know that would just be a step in the right direction and fantastic for the FBP brand and just for my personal brand in general. The only thing I have a problem with is that, again, it's not on point with the concision concept, but the only issue is that it's FBP branded. And the FBP brand has nothing to do with like web development or anything like that. It has to do with me, but it has to do with like mainly like the FBP stuff was like clothing and community and the podcast, which isn't bad, but flowing into the next point here, it's like I have to understand what isn't a priority, and I don't have the time or resources to do right now. And that is definitely FBP clothing. Like that is a whole other fucking beast that I don't have the time or energy or money to really deal with, like, and go in how I want to go in. So that's really tough. The AM and the PM podcast and the merch, like what it is going to be what it is for a long time. Like Amanda wants to do AM and the PM episodes. Okay, cool. Like we will struggle through like getting like, however, we need to do. And it's funny because like people like that and I like doing it, but it's like time and resources, man. It's like, I gotta film it. I gotta be in it. I have to edit it. I have to promote it. It's like, it's just a drain. So that's tough. Can't really do all that at once. ZPG, not even on my radar whatsoever. It hasn't been for a while, honestly. But like it's the real estate and everything. That is a long-term goal, something like that. But, just a lot of thoughts, a lot of stuff. And, I don't know. There's just a lot of things going on. So yeah, I mean, this has helped me to a certain degree kind of flesh out some of these ideas and kind of get some gears turning and everything. We definitely need to improve and be more concise on these types of things. I need to do a lot more research on where we're going to niche down to. But I'm excited because I know that with the things that we're doing well, compounded with the things that we're going to modify and improve here, we're going to be on an upward trajectory here and try to start gaining some more momentum on the stuff that we're doing. But, I thank you guys for this continued support, watching the videos, listening, asking questions. There are things that I'm not going to change though. I want to reiterate this. Like, I'm not going to stop on social media, like specifically my personal brand social media. Like, I'm not going to stop making YouTube videos entirely. There's no way I can do that. Like, it's not the best use of my time, but I really enjoy it. And it's all continuing to build the brand. The thing that I want to, maybe the last takeaway here is I have genuinely, if I didn't do any of the shit that I did with like MJS and FBP and all that, like if I didn't do any of that stuff over the past 3 years, like I don't know if I would be in the same position. Like maybe I'd have, more money from if I implemented this strategy from the get-go, but I also think I'd be in a different position because I have genuinely people come to me relatively frequently and ask about like the things that I've done and how I've, again, like yesterday, like how I built like some of the businesses and everything. And I think that they have gotten a lot of value out of the content. And that ultimately is one of my highest like goals, is providing value to people that also want to do similar things, build, be an entrepreneur or do things for themselves or build whatever. And I'm happy and blessed and honored that I get those questions because I do genuinely like helping people and having those conversations and trying to move forward, like myself and others. So I don't regret anything that I've done at this point. We're just going to try to pivot slightly with some of these things that we're doing because it definitely is necessary to take that next jump and start really moving into like the pure like income generation and scaling and getting more resources and then kind of ballooning back out into these other things. But that's all I got. I'm happy that we did this little exercise. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Again, as always, if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, leave them in the comment section down below. Make sure if you got anything out of it, like this video, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.